Hi everybody, this is Linda with Overbrook Quilt Connection, and today we're doing block 25 of Moda's Stitch Pink. It's called Underground. We had an underdog, I think that's what we started off with in block 1, but this is 25 and it's underground. And it's a nice simple block. It will not take you very long at all. So we start with half square triangles that you will square up to 2.5 inches, and they're made with whatever your dark is going to be for this block and background. So you will make 8 half square triangles like that. Again, you will square them to 2.5 inches. Then the next step is to make these, take these larger squares. What are they? They are 4.5. And you're putting 2.5 inch squares on them, snowballing them on 2 corners. So as usual, you will draw a line, stitch right inside the line towards the point, and you'll press them out and trim off underneath. You'll do that on 2 of the corners, like that. I should have also said on the half square triangles, you'll press them towards the dark. All right, so you'll make 4 of these units. Then the next step is to make your corner units, and that is 2 of your half square triangles, 1 of your dark 2.5 inch squares, and 1 of your background 2.5 inch squares. You will sew a background to 1. Again, make sure you look at your diagram so you know that you have your directions right. And you'll sew a dark to 1 of your half square triangles also. You'll lay them into, you'll put them into 4 patches. I pressed towards the background and I pressed towards the dark. So to the square, away from the half square triangles. Then you'll seam that center seam. I went ahead and pinwheeled mine like so. These seams don't really, you do have one match point as you're putting it together, but you don't really have a lot of nesting as you go along. So then that's all the construction you have before you start putting it into rows. So your rows will consist of your center square with 1 of these piece units on either side with the points going out. I press that away from the center, and then you'll construct 2 top and bottom rows where the points are facing out. But there is a match point here, so I want to talk about that a minute. Again, it's one of those diagonal coming into or matching into a straight. So it's not a, a nesting type situation, but you do have some bulk reduction by having this seam pressed away and this seam pressed towards. But when you are, again, if you've been really accurate on your sewing, it should just kind of naturally match up. But if it doesn't, you can take a pin, and again, you can put it, it needs to be 1/4 inch away, and where that diagonal stitching would cross the 1/4 inch line. And you can draw it if that helps. Draw in your seam allowance so you know where to place your pin. Then on the back side, you would place your pin, again, 1/4 inch in right on the seam line. And you would have when you have those 2 points matching, then put a pin there. And then that should then keep it matched as you stitch that. I press these seams towards the center. Okay, let me go ahead and finish putting my rows together, and I'll come back and show you when we're ready to put it into the finished block. I had one of mine that did not naturally line up, one of my match points. So I thought I would mark my pieces so you can see more clearly what I'm talking about on my matching, but I've got an X right here that has my seam lines 1/4 of an inch away and the seam line that's stitched of my 4 patch. And I'm going to put my pin right where those two intersect. Okay, then on my other side, I've got mark where the 1/4 inch seam line is and then where that diagonal comes down. So I'm going to put my pin right through there. So I've got them on top of each other and I've got my pin to where it's straight up and down. So I know that they are on top of each other. So I'm going to hold it with my fingers securely so it doesn't move, and then I'm going to take my pin out. Now you can leave that pin in and pin on either side of it if you're not comfortable pulling it out. So you can put a pin on both sides of that. You can even put in an additional one if you don't feel like it's secure enough. But then I'm going to stitch that and it should match now. It's finished now, and as you can see, it matches about as perfectly as it's possible to do. This is the one that I pin matched, and it's quite good, if I do say so myself. So now my rows are done and I'm ready to join this into a block, and I think this is going to be a really pretty block. Once again, I'm using fabrics, since these were large pieces, I'm using fabrics that I had a lot of that I thought went together. So I am still, using up my fat quarters. I still have plenty of fabric. Like I said, this is block 25, so there's only 5 more blocks to go. And I'm fine on fabric, but if you're not, be sure and contact Amy and let her know that she can get you some more. All right, let me sew this into rows and I'll be right back. All right, here is the finished block. I just love this block. It's very simple, but very effective, I think. I was lucky enough that when I was doing these match points on the long seams, they worked, they did it pretty organically, but I do pin I pinned that point, even though I didn't go to all the trouble of doing the pin match like I showed you. I still pinned that row because I don't really trust my fabric to stay where it belongs all the time. So I do pin my seams like this where I'm wanting things to line up well. All right, this is block 25. I hope you have good luck with it. I think it's really pretty, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Thank you.